What's going on, guys? Mega Gig back with another video, back with another build guide. We are taking a look at the Necromancer again today and the Bonestorm build, the new version. A lot of people really loved this build when the Necromancer first came out. It's since kind of fell by the wayside, but there is a new version now, and I actually looked online. I haven't seen anybody do any videos or build guides or anything for this yet. And so this is kind of what I have thrown together. If somebody else has already done it, I haven't seen it. But today's just going to be a build guide. It's not my build. I'm not claiming it to be my build. I just want to get that out of the way. Also, I want to preface by saying really fast I am expecting a phone call, and I may have to cut the recording off for a second to take that, but I'll let you guys know, if there's a little blip in the video. Hey, there was a phone call. This and that. But yeah, let's get into this build. It's actually a lot of fun. And for power reference-wise, when I finished my Bonestorm build, before everything was nerfed, I was at like Greater Rift 86, 87, and that was like right at the edge. Now, after the buffs and then this new version, 90 seems fairly easy as long as the Rift isn't total garbage. So yeah, so I think this build is actually stronger than it was, but it does take a little more, I don't know if I want to say skill, but it takes a little more timing to play completely effectively, but we'll go over all that when we go over the skills and when we run a Rift and everything, go over the play style. First, let's talk about the weapon. Tragul's Corroded Fang. Cursed Scythe rune for Grim Scythe now has a 100% chance to apply a curse, and you deal up to 200% increased damage to cursed enemies. So, as you can see, we don't have a curse down here right now. Grim Scythe is our curse applier, and we are using the Grim Scythe rune. For our offhand, we are using Ledger's Disdain. Now, you do want to get a new one of these. The old one, as you can see, my stats are a lot better, but it's only 10% damage for each point of essence it restores, whereas the new version goes up to 80%, and that's very important, guys. Grim Scythe deals an additional, with mine, 72% damage for each point, every single point it restores. And it restores 12 essence per hit, or per enemy hit. So if you're in a giant group, it's restoring a ton of essence, and for me that's 72% for each point of that essence. So that is key for doing a giant source of damage. You need a new one, and the higher you can get, the better. And yeah, keeping your fury or your essence dumped to keep this effective is also essential, which we'll go over in a little bit. For our belt, we are using Dainty's Binding. Get the new version. You gain damage reduction when there is an enemy affected by any curse. This is great because we're applying curses with our Grim Scythe, and we don't have a specific curse down here. It's no longer just Decrepify. So we essentially just have to hit an enemy, and now we're taking effect of this. If you can get a 50% version, that's great. 4% more than what I have. Yeah, and then we're also using Ancient Parthan Defenders, which we gain damage reduction for each enemy stunned within 25 yards. And we're going to be stunning enemies through bone armor dislocation, so that gives us some more damage reduction here and there. If you find yourself more than tough enough, you could probably get rid of that for something like Nemesis Bracers or something with attack speed on it. Attack speed goes really, really good with this build. For the amulet, we are using the Wisdom of Kalan. Increase the maximum number of bone armor stacks by 5. So this is pretty much an absolute must. Again, all the armor and stuff we go over, if you want to switch it around in the cube and whatever, feel free to do that. But yeah, this is a pretty much must for this build. We are also using the Crisbin Sentence. You deal up to 100% increased damage for each enemy slowed, and then triple this bonus, so 300%, affected by enemies of other control impairing effects, so stuns, frozen, this and that. And that is going to be another huge source of damage, guys. And then finally, we're using a convention of elements. We are on the live server, and I just dropped this morning, and I can't believe it. An insane primal convention of elements, and it had intelligence on it. I rolled it off for critical hit damage because I may throw this on my barbarian as well. But we've got critical hit damage chance and area damage on there. And area damage is actually really nice on this version of the build because our main source of damage is Grim Scythe. It's not bone armor, which is nice to have the bone armor damage, but it's not our main source of damage. So yeah, area damage is fine to have on this build as well. And yeah, and then for that is the gear, except for the actual set, you're going to need the entire 6-piece set of the Grace of Inarius set. The 2-piece set bonus bone armor damage is increased by 1,000%. That is a big boost. I think it's 250 over what it was. I think it was 750, something like that. 4-piece set bonus bone armor grants an additional 2% damage reduction per enemy hit, which is really nice. And we now get up to wait, that says grants additional 2% damage reduction per enemy hit, not for each stack. That's interesting. You know, I actually did not look into that. That's interesting. I wonder if that's a miswording or if it's now damage reduction per enemy hit and not for total stacks. That's interesting. Let's see what it says. Rip bones, and creating armor that reduces damage taken by 3% for each enemy hit up to a maximum of 10. So it's still up to the maximum of, it still goes off the actual stacks. Even though the wording is a little different, it still goes off the actual stacks. That's interesting though. I hadn't noticed that. So 2% and then up to 15, so that's 30% damage reduction. And then bone armor also activates a swirling tornado of bone, damaging nearby enemies for 1,000% weapon damage and increasing the damage they take from you by 3,750%. That is huge. And I do want to say on the 4-piece set bonus real quick, it's not 2% per stack, it's 2% extra. You get 3% here, so it's 5% per stack, guys. 5% for total per stack, not 2%. But yeah, that is the set bonus. Cooldown reduction isn't very important, so we're going for life to have a lot more life. And this is also going to come in handy with what we have in the cube. And then I've got diamonds all around in here. If you're tough enough, you can put topazes in there for more damage. For gems, we are going for more of a melee version. And again, Grim Scythe is more of our damage dealer, so we're using Simplicity Strength. And we are also now using Bane of the Stricken. You are still doing a lot of big time damage, but you also want to stack damage over time. You could make a case, and I haven't fully tried this, or fully really messed with like the different options of gems, but you could go for a Bane of the Trapped maybe instead, or even possibly a Pain Enhancer, because your big damage bonus is coming from your Grim Scythe the more you hit. But Bane of the Stricken seems to be an all-around really good item because your damage bonus from your Ledger's Disdain isn't very much. I mean, it's still significant on just one target, but on a single target Greater Rift Guardian, it might take a while, and you won't benefit as much from Bane of the Trapped or Pain Enhancer. So it's really kind of up to you. You'll have to play around and see which one works better. For this one, long story short, too late for that, right? We're using Bane of the Stricken. And our last gem, we're using Esoteric Alteration. We do suffer a little bit from lack of toughness in this build, so we're going for more toughness. If you were to swap this out, I would prefer you swap it out with Pain Enhancer, because you're getting a lot more damage from the critical hit passive over 3 seconds, because remember that 7,000 is multiplied by the 3,750% on the 6-piece set bonus, and then you're also doing a lot more damage for the attack speed for this again. So theoretically, if you have the toughness, you could swap Esoteric out for Pain Enhancer, and you could swap out Bane of the Stricken for Bane of the Trapped. All good choices there, probably. When you're on the very edge of what you're pushing, or if you're in really higher Greater Rifts, you're probably still going to need the Stricken. But I haven't been able to push super high with this yet because my gear is still not very optimized. I mean, it's not bad, but I don't have a lot of ancient pieces, and yeah, I don't have any augments, so yeah, keep that in mind. And then we did go over all the gear, correct? Yeah, we went over all the gear. For the cube, you're going to want Nair's Black Death. Each different poison skill you use increases the damage of your poison skills by 100% for 15 seconds. We are using 4 poison skills in this build, so 400% increased damage when we have all those up. And you can see there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. 400% increased damage. Now the stacks do fall off separately, so you will kind of have to keep an eye on that. You're generally using these all the time, so I like to cast Death Nova and Siphon Blood at the same time. You're really only using these to trigger Nair's Black Death. You're not really using them for anything else. And then we're using Depth Diggers. Again, we're using a primary skill for our main damage dealer, so we are using this, which increases our primary skills that generate resource deal 100% additional damage. And then an item that doesn't get used a whole lot on the Necromancer, but I really, really like, is Lornell's Sunstone. Your damage reduction is increased by 0.95% for every 1% of life missing. And because we have a lot of life in this build, that is a lot. And I've had this save me a lot more than Unity. I've tested this build a lot with Unity, and you really pretty squishy. Even Unity and running Wisdom of Kalan at the same time. This actually works really, really well with Esoteric Alteration. When you hit below 50% life, the second part of Esoteric kicks in, and then this is also giving you almost 1% for every 1% of life you're missing. So if you're missing 50% life, that's another 50% damage reduction, and then it just keeps going up from there. And so you get down into the area where you only have about 10% life, but your toughness is over like 2 billion. So as long as you have good sustain and you can hold yourself around there and heal through that, I think this is the better option. Of course, it is up to you. Try what you like better. You can use a Unity if you like. As for the skills, we are using Grim Scythe, Curse Scythe to apply those curses. We're using Siphon Blood, Power Shift, again, just a poison rune to be able to trigger our Nair's Black Death, and Death Nova, same thing. Although Death Nova does kind of play another part too. The Blight rune leaves a lingering patch of blight on the ground, slowing enemies by 60% and causes them to deal 15% less damage for 1 second. 1 second's not very long, but every little bit of damage reduction counts, and so that kind of comes in handy with that as well. We're using Bone Armor Dislocation. It's a poison rune, and it's a stun, which is going to trigger our Crisbin Sentence. So yeah, line that up with your Convention of Elements, which we'll talk about as we are playing. And then Skeletal Mage Singularity. We're using this to dump our essence, because again, our what's it called? Our Ledger's Disdain only gives us a damage bonus for each point we actually restore. Not how much it says it restores, but how much it actually restores. So we want to keep our essence down all the time. So we are using Skeletal Mage to dump all of our essence at once. If you're in a really big group, more than likely it'll be 2, maybe 3 hits with Grim Scythe, and you're going to be at full again, and you need to dump. And also, Singularity does 3% damage for each point of essence it spends. So it's kind of a little damage bonus there. It's not a whole lot. Under the effects of the Elements Ring, it's extra, but it's nothing substantial. But every little bit counts. But we're using it mainly for an essence dump. Then we're using Blood Rush Potency. This increases our armor by 100% for 2 seconds after casting it. And then for passive skills, you could play around a little bit with these. We're using Overwhelming Essence. It allows us one more good swipe on Grim Scythe before we have to cast Skeletal Mage again. Plus, it makes Skeletal Mage do just a tad bit more damage. We're using Standalone to increase our armor. We're using Swift Harvesting for more attack speed. Again, Grim Scythe is our main source of damage, so the more attack speed, the better. And we're using Final Service to cheat death. If you're tough enough, you can swap out Final Service for Spreading Malediction. If you're not worried about having to dump your essence a little more often, you can get rid of Overwhelming Essence for something like Dark Reaping for a little more sustain, or draw life, something like that. There's a couple of different things you can play around with. Blood is Power, not really useful in here because the only thing that's really going to benefit from cooldown reduction is Bone Armor. Blood Rush would too, but it's already on a really short cooldown, so 20% of that really short cooldown isn't really going to be that much more. It's not going to be super significant. But yeah, you can kind of play around with the passives as you like. But definitely stand alone and Swift Harvesting. And as you're pushing higher and higher, Final Service, I think, is more beneficial. For Paragon points, you can see I've got a little all over the place in our core. Maximum Essence, again, because of Skeletal Mage. Movement speed is always nice to have. I've got some Vitality in there to really bump my Vitality up. And then I've got the rest in Intelligence. For offense, you're going to go critical hit chance and damage, then attack speed, and then cooldown reduction. For defense, you're going to go resist all, armor, life, and life regen. And for utility, you're going to go life per hit, area damage, resource cost reduction, and gold find. Resource cost reduction really does absolutely nothing with this build, so it doesn't really matter. You could take it after gold find even if you like. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and jump into a rift, and we'll see what we can do. We'll do a 90. Not going to do an empowered rift. But yeah, let's get to it. Sorry, guys, I did get that phone call, and it messed with the greater rift, so we're going to try this again. Wow, we already got saved by our passive. Yeah, you really got to get those bone stacks up to really get your toughness going. There we go. Now, to kind of explain how this plays the most efficiently, you want to keep your 4 stacks of poison. When you get to your poison roll, you definitely want to make sure all your essence is dumped. And then if your that's going to hurt if we're in range for it. And if your Bonestorm is up, you want to stun them on the poison roll as well. Oh no! I couldn't get out. Ah. Where is he? There he is. Alright. Let's get everything up. Come on. That darn siphon skill seems to lag sometimes. And I've tried putting some of these skills on the numlock trick, and it doesn't seem to work because you're always holding your Grim Scythe. Of course, frozen. Why wouldn't it be frozen? But we're on our physical roll now. Make sure your essence is dumped. Ah, oh, come on. Leave me alone. And use your Bonestorm if you can. Wow, such an annoying pack. They're not even, like, grouping up on me. Come on, fight me! Now you can see our toughness as our HP goes down just skyrockets. Man, forget this pack. Let's move up here and let's get a little more density going. Ah. There, we're getting somewhere. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't getting annoyed with this pack. They keep knocking me around and everything. Alright, so dump and stun, and now we do a giant chunk of damage. So yeah, let me pause and real quick explain this. You're using these all the time, so you don't have to worry about them going down. When you're on your physical roll, about to get to your poison roll, go ahead and refresh both of these, and then right before your physical or right before your poison roll hits, dump your fury with singularity, and then stun them with this, and you're going to benefit from all of your damage bonuses at once on your poison roll and do massive, massive damage. And so it's kind of hard to explain and talk about at the same time. As I say, it's hard to play the game and explain things all the time, but kind of watch how I'm doing. There we go. We'll dump. We've got the rest of our bonuses up, except this wasn't up to stun. So here we go. Poison roll. And I stunned a little early. Your stun only lasts for 2 seconds, so try not to stun early. Wait till you're in your poison roll really good. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and stun him. Make sure you're dumping with your singularity. You can see we're standing in that, and our toughness is just fluctuating enough that... ooh, now those guys hurt. Good thing we were saved by final service. Whoa, lag. Alright, stun, dump. Everything's up. And you can see we really chunk the gold elite. And there he's dead. I don't worry too much about trash. Again, it is a good AoE build, and it's a pretty good trash killer, but it kind of... There, we'll get everything up. But you do have to make sure you're constantly dumping your... I seem to get a lot of trash where they summon more and they keep summoning, and if it's like caster trash and they keep summoning more, just move on from that. And I may end up switching out for Pain Enhancer, as I was talking about. I'm going to do some more testing on that. Ooh, a shield shrine, alright. That needs to recharge. And these guys are health linked, so this will be a good show of the damage. Alright, let's get our poison skills up. And then stun, and then you can see even the health link guys, once you get all your rolls just right, you can really just chunk them. Now with Pain Enhancer, we'd be attacking even faster, which means we're going to get even more hits off in our poison roll. I'm not using Pain Enhancer here, but it's a good option if you have the toughness to either sacrifice Esoteric, or if you're in group play and you don't need Bane of the Stricken, things like that. And with one swipe, we just kill them all. Once, if they're stunned, then we're in our poison roll. And this has been a pretty good... That needs to recharge. Whoa, look at those chunks. Half health on the poison roll when you get your stun and everything right. Now remember, as a Necromancer, we've only got three elements. So we deal extra damage 4 out of every 12 seconds. And there, I think we've cleared that enough. That needs to recharge. This build does like to eat elites and whatnot, and so that's why I say you might be able to switch out Bane of the Stricken. It's just in higher greater rifts. Now 90's pretty high, but in like really high greater rifts, 100 and whatever, it's probably going to be more beneficial to have Bane of the Stricken because fights are more than likely going to take longer. And there we got saved by our final service. As much toughness as we end up having at lower health, it's still beneficial to have a cheat death every now and then. And of course more frozen, because why not? Now you may say, why do you keep hitting your Bonestorm and not lining it up with the right rotation? Well, partly because I'm not super good at the build, and partly because I'm talking and it's hard to pay attention. 5 billion toughness. Where did the blue go? I can't find him. Did I already kill him? No, there he is. Come on. Getting stuck over there. Alright, let's push forward. Now, this has been a good floor for density. I haven't been really crazy about the particular elite packs it's given me, but they're not too bad, I guess. Ooh, alright. That'll work. There's another elite. Now, because you don't benefit from Crisbin's Sentence on Juggernauts, it is still more or less advised. There, we did it right. Now we got to get out. It is still more or less advised to skip Juggernauts if you're playing a Necromancer with Crisbin's Sentence. Man, more frozen stuff. I'm surprised we haven't gotten all kinds of beams. Dump, stun, chunk. And there we go. Oops, we got stunned anyways. Let's see if we can't wrangle up a little bit of density here. And yeah, we're just chunking these guys. Go ahead and get those up real quick. And dump and stun. And there go the chunks. And there we go, they're dead. Once you get your rotation down, if you're not if you're not talking like me and you're actually paying attention to what you're doing, this build has potential to go a lot farther than I'm pushing it here. Like I said, once you get your rotation down and you know you're really paying attention to what you're doing. I shouldn't have said anything about beams. I shouldn't have said anything about beams because here they are. I mean, you can see how fast we kill elites, and again, beams and frozen, of course. You can see how fast we can kill elites when we're paying attention to what we're doing. Let's see if we can't get it right this time. Yeah, there we did pretty good. And you can use your Blood Rush to dodge frozen and stuff like that if you hit it right before the frozen explodes. And of course, why not Frozen Pulse? Because that's the only one we haven't had yet. May as well have that one too. And there's the Rift Guardian, that's alright. Rift Guardians with ads are great. Fantastic for this build. We didn't get one with ads, unfortunately. But we still do good damage. Try not to take any front hits from this guy. He does a lot of damage. You can pretty much fight him straight up until he charges, and then just use your blood funnel or blood rush to get out of the way. But again, since you don't have any ads, you're not generating a lot of extra essence. So that's when you kind of aren't getting as much damage as you could. And this is fights like this is when the Bane of the Stricken really comes in handy. But I think we're going to get it. Yeah, we're getting some big chunks. Let's go ahead and get behind him. Dump, and maybe we can finish him. Yeah, there we go. One big hit from our frailty. Yeah, so that is the new Bonestorm build, guys. That's kind of an in-depth build guide and an explanation on different things and different things you can use. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And like I said, there's a little bit of playroom with some of the gems. There's a little bit of playroom with some of the passives. It's really up to you guys. If you're just starting out with this build, I would kind of start out with what I've got here and then kind of play with it from there and go, you know, kind of like that. So, yeah, if you're not new to this build, maybe you've been playing with a similar version of this, you've got something better, let me know what you guys think in the comments. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and a comment and subscribe if you want to see more, guys. Thank you for watching and more good stuff to come. Take care.